Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Today we will start our new chapter, that is egg. Let's start. Eggs by design. The eggs we are getting may have a different type depending on the production of those eggs. Means the feed that is given by their caretakers or the environment in which they may live. They are classified into omega-3 eggs and eggs that may low in saturated fat and cholesterol. In omega-3 eggs, hens are given feed that is high in flax seeds because flax seeds are an excellent source of omega-3. So omega-3 eggs is achieved by providing laying eggs with feed between 10 and 20% flax seeds. This elevated level of omega-3 fatty acid is achieved by giving exactly the same percentage which has been approved by FDA. The diets of chicken can be manipulated to alter other components of the eggs that they lay. Like a diet which is rich in canola oil produces eggs that are marketed as lower in saturated fat and cholesterol. Again, under FDA regulations, this claim can be made only if the content of both saturated fat and cholesterol is at least 25% lower than it is in the standard eggs. Altering the diet of laying hens also can increase the vitamin E content in eggs. So it depends what kind of diet the hens are taking. If they are having these particular qualities in their eggs they are producing, they have been already labeled in the packaging as shown in the pictures. Eggs may be classified as cage-free eggs and free-range eggs. What are cage-free eggs? Eggs laid by hens raised on the floor of a building instead of in cage. I have read that according to USD, cage-free eggs come from hens that are housed in a building. It could be a room, it could be an enclosed area that allows for unlimited access to food, water, and provides the freedom to roam within the area during laying cycle. Even though this sounds a lot better than confining a chicken to a cage, note that this regulation makes no mention of a space requirement. This means that lots of chicken can be stuffed into a barn and still be considered cage-free. So you are not sure whether the cage-free eggs are equally as good as free-range eggs. What are free-range eggs? Free-range eggs are laid by chicken that are outdoor during the day, but generally are sheltered in a barn at night. So these kind of chicken or eggs are defined free-range eggs as basically the same as cage-free eggs, but with the exception that free-range hens have access to the outdoors. Note that this doesn't mean they are able to roam completely free and might just have access to the outdoors at certain times of the day, not all the time. So this is the basic difference between these two kinds. How to determine the quality of egg? First of all, the date on which the eggs are graded are written on the carton, and it is very helpful when buying eggs. Other than this is the candling. What is candling? It is a technique used for grading eggs in the shell. It is based on observing the eggs in silhouettes while they are rotated. This process reveals mobility of the yolk and the size and the location of the air cell in silhouette. In an egg of high quality, the yolk is centered and shows limited movement when the egg rotates. Her unit is a unit used to denote quality of albumin correlates thick albumin height with egg white, while the other measures of quality out of shell are albumin index and yolk index. Albumin index is the grading measurement of albumin to determine the quality on the basis of the amount of thick white, while the yolk index is the measurement of egg quality based on the ratio of yolk height to the yolk width. The air cell, which is formed between inner and outer membrane of intact shell, and during storage it continues to grow as the egg loses both moisture and carbon dioxide. As I have told you, because of the loss of moisture and carbon dioxide, the air cell starts becoming larger, and the weight when it is immersed in the water, the egg does not sink down, it keeps on floating on the surface. So the loss of carbon dioxide also elevates the pH of the white. In high quality egg and albumin is thick and firmly around the yolk and does not spread far, whereas the thinner albumin allows the yolk to move away from the center. A strong vitelline membrane in an egg of its high quality results in well-rounded yolk. So this vitelline membrane gets deteriorated if the egg quality is bad, and thus it makes the yolk and white to get mixed. However, the change in pH affects the vitelline membrane, because of which the yolk flattens and spreads further. Vitelline membrane weakens when small amount of water enters the yolk, which also makes it more difficult to separate yolk from the white. Eggs can be held in cold storage or refrigerator storage for 6 months, but eggs held at room temperature will drop at least a grade level within a week. Oil dipping can seal the pores and block loss of water and carbon dioxide from the egg during storage. There are different grades of an egg when they are taken out from the shell: grade AA, grade A, and grade B. For AA grade, the egg content covers a small area, white is firm, has much thick white surrounding the yolk and a small amount of thin white. The yolk is round and upstanding. While in grade A, egg content covers a moderate area, white is reasonably firm and has a considerable amount of thick white and a medium amount of thin white. The yolk is round and upstanding. While the grade B, egg content covers a very wide area, white is weak and watery, has no thick white, and the large amount of thin white is thinly spread. The yolk is enlarged and flattened. The standards for grading eggs in the shell. AA grade egg shell is clean, unbroken, practically normal. It has 1 inch or less in depth air cell, while the white is clear, firm, 72 Haw units or higher. Yolk is outlined, slightly defined, practically free from defects. While for grade A, the shell is clean, unbroken, practically normal, 3/16 inch or less in depth, clear, may be reasonably firm, 60 to 72 Haw units of white, while the yolk outline may be fairly well defined, practically free from defects. While for B grades, clean to very slightly stained is the shell, unbroken, it may be slightly abnormal. Air cell is 3/8 inch or less in depth, while the white, it is clear, may be slightly weak, that is between 36 to 60 Haw units. For the yolk, the outline may be well defined, may be slightly enlarged and flattened, may show definite but not serious defects. The eggs may be preserved by three methods: pasteurization, drying, and freezing. Preservation of egg in liquid form is done for commercial use only, where it saves the time of breaking eggs and its sanitation and storage problems. It also increases the shelf life of the eggs. It is done to prevent labor costs required for breaking eggs in the institutional food services. Pasteurization or pasteurization is a process in which water and certain packaged and non-packaged foods such as milk and fruit juice are treated with mild heat, usually to less than 100 degrees Celsius. It is done to eliminate the pathogens and extend the shelf life. The process is intended to destroy or deactive organisms and enzymes that contribute to spoilage or risk of diseases. Pasteurized eggs are eggs that have been pasteurized in order to reduce the risk of foodborne illnesses in dishes that are not cooked or are only slightly cooked, like eggnog or maybe some other dishes like that. They may be sold as liquid eggs products or pasteurized in the shell. Pasteurization is a common method which is to hold the liquid whole eggs at 61 degrees Fahrenheit for 3.5 minutes, 3.5 minutes, a temperature sufficient to kill harmful microorganisms without causing undesirable denaturation in eggs. Since it is rich in proteins and the favorite food of most of the microorganisms is protein. Yolks can be pasteurized in this way, and if sugar and salt is added, that required a higher temperature to kill salmonella and such various microorganisms. Even though egg whites are more sensitive to pasteurization than are either yolks or whole eggs, they still are satisfactory for producing foams from pasteurization. Drying of eggs. Spray drying is commonly done to dry eggs. Dried eggs are of interest because they can be stored without need of refrigeration or frozen storage. Various forms of dried eggs are whole egg solids, fortified whole egg solids with varying proportions of yolks and whites. Impairment of characteristics like color, flavor can be quite challenged because of the complicated procedure ahead. Glucose is removed prior to fermentation period by bacteria or yeast from egg whites, hence preventing negative effect of sugar on dried whites. Letting the glucose stay causes browning due to Maillard reaction during storage process. So we are already, if you are not already aware of this browning, this browning happens between the um glucose and the protein of the food when they become in contact for a longer period of time. This reaction takes place. Dried egg whites that have gone bacterial fermentation can use for making products containing foam by simply adding a surface active agent. Glucose is removed so that Maillard reaction cannot take place. Also, it may cause an off flavor in while the egg is being dried. Elimination of oxygen is essential before packaging to prevent oxidation that happens due to fat in the yolk, because we know that fat has an ability to get oxidized easily when it is exposed in the air or with oxygen for a longer period of time. If the glucose is eliminated by fermentation prior to drying and the adequately dried yolk or white egg mixture is packaged lightly with insert gas, replacing any oxygen makes egg product with better shelf life and usefulness in many food products. Freezing of eggs. Egg whites perform well and do not require special treatment. Remember that eggs can never be freezed with their shells in the freezers. Glucose doesn't cause a problem when whites are frozen. Frozen egg whites can be stored in the freezer and thawed for use in any way possible foaming powder, and flavors are excellent after freezing and thawing. So this procedure is very useful for the commercial industries who are in making of cakes and in which the whites are more frequently used. Egg yolks form gels as a consequence of freezing, making thawed yolks or egg whole eggs too viscous and unsatisfactory to use unless either salt or sugar is added before freezing. 10% salt or sugar by way of the yolks can be added to either whole eggs or yolks before freezing. Alteration of flavor happens due to addition of salt and sugar. So a very careful monitoring is required while the sugar and salt may be added to prevent the deterioration of egg yolks while freezing. Consumers are increasingly demanding pre-prepared products, and the synoresis is the main issue while the consumers are asking for the foods that are pre-prepared that contains egg. Several approaches may help to improve the quality of egg products that ultimately will be frozen, thawed, and reheated. Adding gums and long eggs that helps bind the water within the egg mixture is helpful, while the citric acid can change the pH from essentially neutral to a somewhat acidic pH of around 6. Salts also may be added, although consumers' concern about salt in processed foods may be a factor in promoting other solutions to synoresis. I hope you know what is synoresis. It is the dripping of liquid from the product.